Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another YouTube. Before I forget, please thank you to everyone for your abundant birthday wishes for me. And I also had a very lovely surprise birthday this year. I was able to visit my sister in Virginia, who I haven't seen in 35 years. And she's 88, so I'm still the baby of the family. And she'll be 89 this coming January. So had a lovely time with her and my nephew, who's 57. Haven't seen him since he was in college. And it was a lovely time in the state of Virginia, too. Nice and warm. And was very glad to have made the trip and see her again after all these years. Now, sessions are available through June of next year. There is a wait list for the phone and the privates. So only if you have a booked appointment, though, of course. Art and Sacramentals will be up on eBay again next week, I believe. And also, autographed books are on the website for purchase. Just send the dough and we'll mail it out to you. You can also follow me on George Anderson, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads at George Anderson Medium. And subscribe to the YouTube channel too, please. This is all new for me. Sorry. I'm not very technically inclined. No general questions. General questions only. There will be no personal messages. No questions about specific individuals. Post your questions in the chat or comment box, and they will be read out to me, and I'll do the best I can to enter an answer. I see Christ the Redeemer is all out of sorts, so I'm moving him around to make him more comfortable and more centered. In any case, tonight we're going to again touch upon a subject which is so tragic for so many people out there, and that subject is suicide. Now, this week I had numerous private sessions at the hotel where there were souls coming through who admitted that they had contributed to ending their life. But I have to cut them some slack because many of them were suffering from, of course, terrible depression and anxiety. And those are illnesses and they can kill you. And I was glad to hear, though, that some of them did describe their contributing to their passing accidentally. They were not expecting physical death to be the outcome. They ended up passing on, and when they arrived over there, at first, they thought they were dreaming. And then, of course, the subjects that had passed started telling me about, which is always so nice to hear, about pets that they had throughout their lifetime had come forward to welcome them over, which is a sign of a happy passing in spite of the circumstances. And the animals immediately give them peace and comfort. They're very therapeutic. And later on, they did talk about loved ones coming for them as well. But the animals approach first because they're non threatening and everybody's always very happy to see them. And certainly they're very relaxing and loving. They also help you to help yourself with their presence. So they would come first, and then individuals of grandparents or great grandparents, especially if their parents were still here on the earth, would come for them over there to comfort the survivors here that they were not alone and not frightened or in an unhappy place. So many people I find still have a tremendous fear of death. And when you really think about it, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. I think most people, when you really think it over, are frightened by what the circumstances could be that lead up to it. If nobody wants to deal with a prolonged illness, with pain and suffering as it's leading up to them being in the final roundup. And then, of course, there can be the fear of the unknown, but the world unseen that we go to, as long as we have lived a predominantly positive, loving life, we will certainly go into the light and the peace and tranquility of that dimension. Excuse me. So try not to be afraid of death. I just don't understand sometimes why people are. And remember that the world unseen is here. It's parallel with our existence. The only difference is that they're in a different, our loved ones are in a different frequency. And they are in a spiritual form and continue to progress and grow over there. But most all the souls that pass on will always tell me there was nothing to be afraid of. They go from, yes, they do look back into this dimension and see sadness at their departure, and yet going into the world unseen, it's a jubilant reunion, a feeling of, in a way, of coming home, because this is probably not the first time that they've moved on into that dimension. And any type of pain or suffering that you may be enduring naturally disappears immediately because you withdraw from the physical body and then move on accordingly. So often say to people, why would you be afraid of seeing some of your loved ones again, or your pets, or somebody that is so welcoming to see you as well? So it's something that we should always consider, that there's nothing to be afraid of. I think, unfortunately, certain fanatical fundamentalist religions have conditioned us that there's fire and brimstone, or there is, everything's horrible if you were not a decent person. Now, of course, I have mentioned that there are the two lower levels, and the creator doesn't put you there, you put yourself there if you've been a real SOB here on the earth. But you're not condemned there forever. The creator never stops loving us or never gives up on us. But it's up to us to find our way out of those dimensions and into the perpetual endless light. Now, the lower levels, I've been told, are not pleasant. It's dark, it's gloomy, it's damp, and you're surrounded by souls who are exactly as you were when you were here on the earth. So it's rather an uncomfortable atmosphere to be in. And yet, some souls have been there for centuries. They're just not about to move yet because they have to learn it for themselves. And it's the same with all of us. We have to learn it for ourselves. We have to find our way on our own. Um, Certainly, loved ones or angelic beings in the hereafter will help us to help ourselves if we do ask for that assistance with eagerness and determination to move up into the light, and it will come to pass. But you have to work on it. I'm sure the lower levels are just loaded with politicians because they're not exactly very scrupulous persons, and I haven't met one yet that I would consider to be a decent individual. So I hope I'm not hurting anybody's feelings out there, but politicians seem to be at the top of the list of individuals that end up in the lower levels. So there's always that chance still to clean up your act and be prepared and get together with your loved ones in the hereafter who will be more than happy to help you to help yourself. Just for people viewing this time, remember we do have the suicide hotline number 988. And please, especially men, please don't hesitate to reach out because men are more frustrated here and men are not good about sharing their sadnesses or emotions. But remember, you're talking to somebody on a phone that doesn't know who you are. So you shouldn't feel a sense of embarrassment or sadness. But the souls over there have told me that when you think of it, men are more frustrated here, and men are not good communicators about emotions and feelings, especially in regards to the transition called death, where someone has lost somebody close to them. Men may have a much more difficult time because our society puts a tremendous onus on them that you have to be a man, you have to keep your chin up. And yes, that may be true, but it causes many males to unfortunately keep things to themselves and end up suffering in silence, whereas women can communicate their feelings better or their circumstances as opposed to men. I guess I could say in an offbeat way that men are more stuck up here, that they really don't know how to handle a situation that comes to them in the sense of the transition called death, especially. Widowers do not have an easy time. As a matter of fact, it's not as though there's any favoritism, but men do not like being widowers, especially if they've had a very joyful and loving relationship with the spouse they've been married to. My 88-year-old sister was married to her same husband for over 60 years. And he had a rough time prior to his passing, and she helped him through it as best she could. But her hands were tied symbolically. And I can tell she misses him. She mostly misses his company in the physical sense, because she told me that there had been times over the years when they literally would just sit quietly at home and talk and share memories. He was a musical director on Broadway, and she was a ballet dancer and a Broadway actress. And I think that's probably what has helped her to keep up her vigor and exuberance. But she did confess to me that she doesn't know why, but she is afraid of death. And I tried to tell her there's nothing to be afraid of, but I think it's probably more the circumstances of what will lead up to it, especially if you see somebody pass on before them. She also worries about leaving her son here and him being on his own. But we all have to find our direction, whether it be spiritual or in the physical sense. And there's always someone over there to lend a helping hand as best they can, but they cannot interfere in our spiritual experience here. It's up to us all the time to be in the driver's seat. And I don't think too many people like hearing that. They think that when someone passes on, they suddenly gain all this endless knowledge if they seek it out over there. And they certainly can progress to higher frequencies if they work on it. But nobody's going to take you by the hand and do it for you. You have to learn it for yourself, just as you do here on the earth. And if you've had some very unhappy times here on the earth, as certainly many people have, it's not a sign of any type of persecution or unpleasantness toward you. Actually, the difficult things we go through turn out to be the most profound things that we've come to learn over there. So when unpleasantnesses come to you, accept it with love, realizing that there is a purpose behind it. And your loved ones there will be certainly happy to help you to help yourself. And there certainly are higher beings over there who will be more than happy to help if they can. And I mean, I pray to the Redeemer or certain saints. That's my particular choice. But I was interested. I thought of something many years ago because I had an acquaintance who was a devout Judaist. And I had attended temple with him on one of the high holy days. And he basically did not believe in an afterlife, nor did he believe in life after death. And yet, when the rabbi called for those who have lost someone to stand and pray the so-called prayer for the dead, I said to him afterwards, you don't believe in an afterlife, and you don't believe that your loved ones are in existence in another dimension, but you don't believe in anything. You don't believe in praying for the dead, and yet you just did. I couldn't put my finger on that confusion because as a traditional Roman Catholic, we were taught to pray for the so-called dead, but in Judaism, I guess they're not. And yet he stood and prayed for his loved ones who had passed on. And I said, but you don't believe it. But certainly nothing wrong with it. And he just didn't know how to answer me. And I said, but that does seem like a bit of a double standard. You profess to be agnostic and not believe in an afterlife and not believe in life after death and not praying for the so-called dead, including members of your family that have passed on. And yet, when the rabbi called for that moment during the service, he stands up and says the prayer for the so-called dead. It's like, okay, that's something to really twist my brain around in trying to figure out, most definitely. Now, I guess I'll stop babbling and reach out to people who have typed in their questions in the comments and hope I can answer them for you concretely. I don't know everything. So don't be surprised if you hear me say, I don't know, because I don't know everything. The ability has taught me many new things, but still, I don't know the answer to every question.
What happens to our souls if humans become extinct? Would we continue to evolve as a species?
Good question. And I'd have to say, our souls will no doubt go on, even though our physical body won't, because this is the suit that we're wearing for this dimension. This is the suit that we'll shed at the time of transition into the world unseen. And I'm sure if you've had pain and suffering with that physical body, you'd be glad to be rid of it when the time comes. But if humanity becomes extinct, I guess you mean, we would still be in our soul or spiritual body, which is the natural state of our existence. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. You still would move on and still be an individual to progress and progress in the world unseen. And I hope that answers. I think I might have misunderstood a bit of the question, but as I'm looking at things strictly from the spiritual perspective.
Are people who are adopted as babies connected as souls to their birth family, their adopted family, or both? And are both families connected?
I've gotten the impression, good question. I'd have to give an I don't know to that. More than likely, from sessions I have done, people will be connected more so with the family they knew for a fact as their mom and dad that raised them as their own. The chances of them meeting the real individuals over there in the world unseen is possible. And it doesn't mean that, they would pretend not to know you and you would probably know them. But I would think that you'd be looking more for the actual individuals that did raise you as part of the family.
Have you had personal experience with suicide?
In what way do you mean that? Do I know someone who has taken their own life? That's what I'd assume. Yes, sadly, I have. My maternal grandmother, may she rest in peace, did take her own life in 1941. She had been going through horrid depression and anxiety. She was also a bereaved mother, and probably at the time was concerned that she may be again a bereaved mother because her eldest child had disappeared and no one could find him. So I think she was overwhelmed with the losses. She had outlived a few siblings, and she had outlived her mother. Her father hadn't passed yet. And she, in those days, the gas in your oven would kill you. And sadly, she chased her pet doggies down to the basement and put towels down the cracks of the doors, and then sadly put her head in the oven. And I assure you, she was not checking on a pie. She meant business, and sadly passed away in that manner. I do have acquaintances from years ago who also did that, turned on the car engine, and passed away from carbon monoxide poisoning. And certainly have prayed for them and have. The only thing I do remember is looking through a family album, and I saw a picture of my paternal grandmother, and I remember saying to my mother, "Who's this scary looking old broad?" And she said, "That's your father's mother." I said, and I could see the sadness and the depression in her face. My grandfather, may he rest in peace, I heard he was not exactly a charmer. And I'm afraid that she might have thought her son, when he unknowingly disappeared and couldn't be found, they ended up assuming he had passed away. And I'm sure that added to already her anxiety of being a bereaved parent. But all changed when my father's older sister had taken out a life insurance policy on her brother that had disappeared. So the FBI kept coming to my grandfather's house because they were under the assumption that he was trying to dodge the draft. So my aunt turned in the life insurance policy. The FBI could not find him, and nor did they know what happened to him. And yet I always find this rather humorous. When she tried to cash in the life insurance policy for $10,000, which in 1941 was a hell of a lot of money, they found him. The insurance company tracked him down. He had kind of gone over the deep end and had dreadful mental and emotional struggles, because they did find him in an asylum out in Los Angeles, California. And how he got there is beyond me, but that's where he ended up. But I always found it laughable that the insurance company, they made sure they found him before they handed out that dough.
Is there a specific saint who helps someone who has died by suicide?
The most important saint I would consider now would be Saint Dymphna. And she can be invoked whilst you're still on the earth. If you're going through terrible anxieties, depressions, mental and emotional issues, she's the patroness saint who's having, for people who are having struggles with dreadful emotional illnesses. Or I remember one time I did a session via phone for a woman on the West Coast whose sister came through. And I had to be cautious of how I approached it, because I didn't want to and add any more unpleasantness to her. But her sister had taken her own life, and it had nothing to do with religion, but the sister had told me to tell her surviving sister here that Saint Dymphna had come to her aid over there and administered to her with love and compassion to help her to help herself. And I encouraged the sister, and I told her, I'm not preaching Catholicism, I'm preaching spirituality. I told her to pray to Saint Dymphna in gratitude for what she had done for her sister over there, and certainly that the saint would continue to help her to help herself. And for those interested in reaching out to Saint Dymphna from a spiritual perspective, let me spell her name. It's D as in David, Y, M as in Michael, P as in Peter, H, N, A. She's an Irish martyr. You can Google her. You can go on eBay, Etsy. They have sacramentals and prayers dedicated to her. But many people I know have reached out to her, including myself, when I'm not having the most pleasant time here, as everybody does every now and again. Nothing to be ashamed of, and no harm in reaching out to her, asking her to help me to help myself.
How does the hereafter feel about assisted death?
They don't have anything against it. And personally, neither do I. In the Dominion of Canada, they allow people who are not going to recover from an illness to make a decision to be put to sleep. The problem with the USA is religion, namely fundamentalism, that everybody thinks that, I always say, when did God die and leave all these ham bones in charge? That they tell us, and Christians are the worst, I'm sorry to say, but Christians have led us to believe that they know better than us. I have a living will that expressly requests do not resuscitate. I am in favor of euthanasia. And I do believe we should have the right to have that put in our will. They claim that the reason it's not permitted is because it's all up to the Creator to decide. But the Creator also does not like seeing us going through dreadful hardships and sufferings, not only for ourselves, but for our family. And I won't say this public person's name because you'll certainly know who it is, but I did a session for him, actually his spouse, and her sister came through. She never at any time mentioned that she lived in Canada and she decided to allow the doctor to euthanize her. And she didn't say that. She just told me she had passed from an illness, which in essence had led to that decision. But she wasn't getting any better, and she was in terrible pain and suffering. And she finally made the decision to have her family come to her and spend time with her. Then she made her decision. And as far as I'm concerned, she was allowed to pass on with dignity. And she was at peace in the world unseen. She never at any time told me about being euthanized. I found out later on and was actually quite taken aback because she never mentioned it to me at all. So apparently it was not a big deal for her.
When souls visit us, do they visit us less frequently the longer that they're in the spirit world?
I think that's true. Um, Usually, when they first pass on into the world unseen, they may spend more time around us for a period of time because they're adjusting there. They know we're adjusting here. They're trying to make sure they let us know that they're still around us in a comforting manner. But as time progresses, even though there is no conception of time over there, as life goes on over there, they progress higher and deeper into the light. But that doesn't mean that they just sign us off. They still will come to us if we call them and need them nearby. But you have to realize they're still on their own unique spiritual experience and progressing into higher frequencies over there. I've been told that there's approximately 10 different levels of the world unseen. Remember the first two that are the lower levels, which you don't want to end up in. And so the other 8 would make up the higher, more pronounced levels where people go, especially individuals who have gone out of their way joyfully to make contributions here that benefit all of mankind. I always say, like composers, writers, creative people that have left a mark of joyfulness here for those that are still in the physical world.
What is the best way to help the animals here on Earth?
Constant kindness, compassion, and love. And remember, the hereafter is not very thrilled about anyone who is unnecessarily unkind to an animal or cruel to an animal. I mean, my two cats live high on the hog in this house, and they're treated with love and gentleness. I call them my boys. They're both from the brothers from the same litter. And the eldest one, or one of them, Constantine, is very loving and affectionate. And he knows by my mannerisms and movements when I'm getting ready to go to bed, because he sits out in the hall waiting for me. And as soon as I come out from flossing and brushing and getting ready for bed, he sits there and then prances into the bedroom and up on the bed. So he knows. And I always talk to him in that funny voice, telling him, yes, Daddy's going into beddy by now, so I hope you'll join me. And he does. He may sleep on his perch, or he may sleep in the bed with me for a while. And then sometimes during the night, he may get up and go sleep somewhere else in the room. He has the freedom of movement. His brother, Nikolai, is definitely a snob. He is not a people person. He still acts a bit weird. He's affectionate when he chooses to be, and that's not frequently as Constantine does. But I still treat him with love and kindness and still pet him. I hope as time goes on, since the two of them have been with me now for a few years, I hope one of these days he takes his kitty meds, which he doesn't do, but gets his head back together again. One thing, I often think where he came from, maybe he wasn't treated nicely, but you would think by now that he would feel comfortable, because Constantine certainly is very much comfortable and at home here, and they have plenty of space to roam around. And but at least they have to know I certainly love and adore them and look forward to being here with them.
If we get used to our past loved ones not being with us on Earth, do they feel we're ignoring them or that we're not connected the way we were?
Could you repeat that again? I didn't catch the beginning.
If we get used to our past loved ones not being with us here, do they feel we're ignoring them or that we're not connected like we used to be?
No, because they know that we still are here fulfilling our own spiritual experience. And we have to also realize that they're in the world unseen and they're moving on accordingly. They can be helping souls over there. They can be working with animals over there. They can still be doing whatever they can do. I was happy to read in a book years ago, Life in the World Unseen was its title. And they touched upon the great composer Tchaikovsky, that he's in a higher frequency in the world unseen. And of course, why not? What did he do for the existence here on the earth? He composed beautiful music, outstanding ballets, symphonies, and just wonderful creative treasures that we have been left with and can enjoy. And I was glad to hear from this read in this book that he was in a high frequency in the hereafter because he made an outstanding contribution to this world. And for anybody who has heard his music and symphonies or gone to any of his ballets, they certainly are extremely beautiful and moving.
Did you knowingly provide insight on about the hereafter to the producers of the movies What Dreams May Come or Hereafter?
I think I've been told that they might have read one of my books, but as far as I know, nobody approached me personally about anything, which I'm not disappointed in. It just adds to my already busy work schedule, which I'm happy to share the ability more so with individuals here. But nobody has personally ever approached me on anything such as that. They'll probably wait until I'm dead and thought of no more, and all of a sudden I'll become a point of interest.
Did you ever do readings for your close family members like your parents, siblings, aunts, or uncles?
Trying to think. I did do a session one time for my father when he was still in the physical world and still doing fine. But I have to admit, I do personally, not that I'm trying to be mean, but I frown on doing sessions for people that I do know personally. Although I have done them also for friends or acquaintances or their family members. But I have done it when I really know nothing unique about them or their life. As time goes on, I always try to keep a personal distance from them and not get to know everything about them. But certainly, I have done them sessions and little groups for family or family members, whether they believe in it or not. And they don't. If they do, they do. No hair off my chest, and I got plenty to spare.
Do we choose the lessons we want or need to learn before we are born here on the earth?
From what I understand, yes. We choose to check off the list, so to speak. We choose the parents, we choose individuals as siblings or family. Um, we choose whatever experiences we may go through, whether they be joyful or dreadful. And they hope over there we can learn progressively from them. I certainly will declare that I have still many issues to deal with upbringing and school and individuals that were not very nice to me. And I will be honest with you, I know it's the right thing to do, but I haven't chosen to forgive yet. And I always tell people, yes, I've been taught that forgiveness is greater and love more powerful than hatred. But you have to be ready to sincerely forgive, and forget. Um, it might be easier to forgive sometimes, but it may be more difficult to never forget. And these episodes do turn us into the individual we become as time has gone on. Um, as I said, I still have issues with my past and, do speak about it once in a while, but try to put it behind me as it's water under the bridge now.
Do you enjoy what you do?
Do I enjoy what I do? Well, one thing I'll say about my upbringing, I never realized um, growing up in a dysfunctional home was an A plus for me and the ability because it has taught me not to get involved with the subject or subjects I'm doing a session for. It's helped me to keep my schnoz out of it because if I did become emotionally involved, I'd be no help to anyone. I do enjoy it only in the sense if I feel that it gives someone hope or comfort, or especially in dire circumstances that they're living with in the sense of their grief. I'm sure not everyone who comes to see me leaves tickled pink. You can't please everybody. I will be honest, I do work very hard. I take this very seriously and respectfully. I consider it a grace of the Holy Ghost, and I'm very happy to look upon it that way. But as anybody knows who works with people, sooner or later, somebody's going to, whine and moan and be a real pain in the ass. And my attitude is I've done my best. If my best wasn't good enough for you, then what do you say to all the other people where it has been more better than my best for them? That tells me something is amiss with you, the subject. If you come for a session and your loved ones and pets make the effort to punch a hole into this dimension, which runs parallel with this one, they're just in the world unseen, and you whine about it afterwards, it's like you're spitting in their face. And that's how I see it. And you're spitting into the face of the Holy Ghost because this ability works through his graces and blessings. So, one thing the hereafter encourages us to do, gratitude is the key for the slightest or smallest thing that the world unseen and our loved ones offer to us. Nothing can be more upsetting for your loved one to come through and you not really give a rat's rear end because it didn't turn out the way you think it should. Well, let me let you know. The ability doesn't work the way I think it should. So it's not going to work the way you think it should. I've learned now just to tell people beforehand, please do not, and I say it again, have any preconceived expectations about this. Just let your loved ones come forward and do their thing and be grateful and happy that they're reaching out. And I've noticed that the ability, since I've been like that, has become even more profound when doing a session. And I certainly have had many, which I tell people I'm just the instrument, because people have been very complimentary and appreciative. But don't be grateful to me. I'm merely the instrument. Be grateful to your loved ones.
What's the biggest lesson the hereafter has taught you?
Still trying to teach me patience. Not doing too well, to be honest with you. I think that's one of my spiritual graces that I have to learn. You haven't taken a drive with me. I'm not a pleasant person behind the wheel, and I'm not ashamed of it. Most people drive like idiots nowadays. And I have to admit, I'm a nervous driver too. It's just always trying to be ultra careful. But I think the one thing that they have pleased me is letting me know that this is my vocation. I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's why they try to make sure that I don't let people that come to see me get me down if they cry or whine and complain. Happens very rarely. Most of the people who come to me are lovely and very appreciative and grateful for the opportunity to hear from their loved ones and reach out. But I've also told people you have to be very cautious how you conduct yourself during the session too, because people sometimes, as I always say, have their heads up their rear. They're not listening to what is being said. They're not absorbing what's being said, and they're not acknowledging properly what is being said. And then naturally, that old expression, don't shoot the messenger, but they'll whine, that it was my fault. I'm trying my best to help you to reconnect with your loved ones and your pets. I don't know what you were looking for, but if it didn't work for you, sadly, I don't understand, because it works very well for everybody else.
What was the most uncomfortable message a soul has conveyed to their loved ones?
The one that stands out immediately was a woman who had come to see me, who was probably not very much up in age, but probably at least in her 60s. And her husband was discerned by me. And it seems that they had a very disastrous relationship. And he was a real SOB to her and always had been. And I'll never forget saying to her at his request, he was glad that he had passed away, because he felt that if he hadn't, he would have ended up murdering her someday, because he just was a very bad person. And of course, was in the lower levels, but trying to work his way out, thankfully. And I hope he made it. That made my blood run cold. And yet she didn't seem to be the least bit surprised to hear it, that he would be capable of that. For more videos such as this one, please, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're not doing this to waste our time, most definitely. Yes, before I forget, I'm trying to remember all the announcements. Art and sacramentals will be up on eBay again, I believe, next week. So sessions are available through June 2026 for those who are interested. Autographed books are on the website, and we do send them out to you once you cough up the dough. And keep abreast of me with georgeanderson.com, Twitter, Facebook, Threads, Instagram at George Anderson Medium. And other than that, it was wonderful being with you again. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did my best. And do me the favor and remember me in your prayers, as every little bit helps. And other than that, may the Redeemer be with you and the Holy Ghost gaze upon you with fondness and joyfulness. And if you don't believe this, well, don't believe it, because someday, I guarantee you, you're going to find out that I'm in the right.